He walked in on us in our guest room. I thought he would yell. Instead, he did something that put him behind bars and left me completely alone. The sound of a human jaw shattering is something you never forget. It's not like the movies, honey. It's a wet, sickening crunch that echoes in your stomach. I hear that sound every single night when I close my eyes. I see the blood spray on the beige carpet he paid for in a house he built for us. And I see the look in his eyes. It wasn't rage. That would have been easier to handle. Rage I can understand. Rage is hot. This was ice cold. It was the look of a man watching his entire universe implode in real time and deciding that if his life was over, he was going to take someone down with him. I'm the reason my husband is sitting in a 6x8 cell right now. I'm the reason my children treat me like a stranger they pass in the grocery store. I ruined my perfect family. I am a selfish, narcissistic person. At least that's what I scream at myself in the mirror when the silence gets too loud. And let me tell you, the silence in this big, empty house is deafening. My children aren't here. My ex-husband hates me with a validity that chills my bones. My parents won't look me in the eye. But before you judge me, and oh, honey, I know you're going to judge me, let me tell you how we got here. Because nobody wakes up one day and decides to burn their life to the ground. It's a slow, creeping poison. My selfish act happened back in 2015. I just turned 39, staring down the barrel of 40, and I was going through a crisis. I had taken my husband, let's call him David, for granted completely. David was, well, he was the guy every woman says she wants. We'd been married for 20 years, high school sweethearts. He was the quarterback, I was the cheerleader. Cliché, right? But he never peaked. He just kept getting better. He treated me not like a princess, but like a partner. He respected me. He provided for us. When my brother got into legal trouble, David was the one who bailed him out and got him a lawyer. When my mom got sick, David was the one driving her to chemo. He was a good man, a solid man, and I was bored. I know. How could you be bored with perfection, you ask? It started with my body. Through my 30s, after having 2 headstrong boys and then, surprise, twin girls, I had let myself go. I was sitting at about 180 pounds, feeling invisible and frumpy. So for my 39th birthday, I decided to reinvent myself. I joined a high-end gym, got a personal trainer, started doing Pilates and hot yoga 5 times a week. I went from 180 to a tight-toned 135. For the first time in my life, I felt hot. Not just cute for a mom, but actually head-turning hot. David, bless his heart, tried to keep up. He went from 260 down to 225, broad-shouldered and strong. He couldn't keep his hands off me. He would come up behind me while I was doing dishes, wrap his arms around my waist, and whisper, "You look incredible, babe." And you know what I felt? Annoyance. I felt smothered. I started thinking, why are you always touching me? Our sex life nosedived because I wasn't in the mood for him. He was too familiar. He was safe. I wanted danger. I wanted validation from someone who didn't remember me when I was pregnant and puking. David tried everything. Dinners, dancing, long walks. He mentioned couples counseling, and I laughed in his face. "I don't need therapy, David. I just need space," I told him. That's when the new manager started at my firm. Let's call him Julian. Julian was everything David wasn't. He was artsy, a little arrogant, younger than me, and sharp. He wore tailored suits that cost more than my car. He started paying attention to me a few days after my birthday transformation. At first, it was professional, then it was lingering looks during meetings, then it was coffee. I remember the first time he flirted with me. He looked at my wedding ring, smirked, and said, "Lucky guy, does he know what he has?" My heart hammered in my chest like a teenager. That dopamine hit? It was addictive. We spent 2 months just flirting. I told him about my life, my boring husband, my stress. I was having an emotional affair, and I felt high on it. David suspected something. Of course he did. The man knew me better than I knew myself. We had a fight one night. He tried to kiss me, and I pulled away with a look of pure disgust. I couldn't help it. I was thinking about Julian. David looked at me, hurt flashing in his eyes, and asked, "Is there someone else?" "You're crazy," I gaslighted him. "You're insecure and it's unattractive." God, I was a monster. A week later, I met Julian at a cafe. I told myself I was going there to break it off, to tell him I was a married woman and we needed to stop. But the second I sat down, he leaned across the table and kissed me, and I didn't pull away. That kicked off a 6-month affair that was fueled by pure adrenaline and lust. I did things with Julian I refused to do with David. I was eager. I was adventurous. Meanwhile, at home, I was a nightmare. I nitpicked David constantly. Why do you chew like that? Why did you buy that brand of coffee? You're suffocating me. If you're already shook by how awful I was treating him, hit that like button because I haven't even gotten to the worst part yet. You think this is bad? Wait until you hear what happened when he walked in. I only snapped out of my fog when my brother came to visit. He pulled me aside and said, "Look, David called me. He's crying, sis. He thinks you don't love him anymore. He's talking about filing for separation because he feels like he's losing his mind." Hearing that David, my rock, the man who never cracked, was crying to my brother, it woke me up. I panicked. I realized I didn't want to lose my marriage. I just wanted the cake and the eating of it too. So I decided to end it with Julian. I quit my job immediately. I told myself I was going to fix this. I was going to cook David his favorite dinner. I was going to be the wife he deserved. Julian didn't take it well. He showed up at my house with a box of my personal effects from the office. I was alone. I let him in. Mistake number one. He wanted closure. He asked what he did wrong. I told him, I love my husband. I need to fix my family. He begged, he pleaded, he cried, and then he said, just one last time for the road, a goodbye. And like the absolute fool I am, I agreed. We went to the guest room. The bed wasn't even made. We were in the middle of it, Julian on top of me, when suddenly the door handle turned. I didn't hear a car. I didn't hear the front door. The door swung open, and there stood David. He was holding a bouquet of lilies, my favorite, and tickets to the Catskills. He had come home early to surprise me with a romantic weekend getaway to save our marriage. The silence was absolute. It lasted maybe 3 seconds, but it felt like a lifetime. Julian froze. I scrambled to cover myself with the sheet, my heart stopping. David dropped the flowers. The vase didn't break. It just thudded on the carpet, water spilling out like a slow tear. David's face, it crumbled. His lip trembled. Tears instantly filled his eyes. He looked like a little boy who had just watched his dog get hit by a car. Julian stood up. He started pulling his pants up, and then, in a moment of sheer, unadulterated arrogance, Julian looked at David. David stepped forward, his fists clenching. Julian sneered, "If you know what's good for you, old man, you'll step back. She's done with you." That was the match in the powder keg. David didn't scream. He didn't yell. He just launched. He tackled Julian with the force of a linebacker. They hit the wall so hard the plaster cracked. A massive hole opened up in the drywall. I was screaming, "David, stop, David." I jumped on David's back, trying to pull him off. I was clawing at him, desperate. David spun around and threw me off him. I flew across the room and slammed into the dresser. My head hit the wood and everything went hazy for a minute. The sounds became muffled. When my vision cleared, I saw David on the floor. He wasn't fighting anymore. He was sitting on his knees, his chest heaving, holding his phone. Next to him, Julian was destroyed. I cannot describe the amount of blood. It was everywhere. Julian's face was unrecognizable. His teeth were scattered on the floor like tic-tacs. His eye socket was sunken in. He wasn't moving. David was speaking into the phone. Calm. Terrifyingly calm. "I need an ambulance and the police. My address is..." "Yes, I just beat a man half to death. He was with my wife. Yes, I'll wait." He put the phone on speaker, set it gently on the floor, intertwined his fingers behind his head, and waited. He didn't look at me, not once. The police arrived in minutes. They handcuffed him. The paramedics rushed past me to work on Julian. I watched them load David into the cruiser. As he was being shoved into the back seat, I saw him look at the house one last time. He looked resigned. That was the moment my life officially ended. At the hospital, it was chaos. My father, my strict, old-school father, didn't say a word to me. He just looked at me with a disappointment so heavy it felt like a physical weight. My brother was screaming at me in the waiting room. "How could you do this? He's a good man. You destroyed him." My mother tried to hug me, saying, it's okay," which only made my father yell at her to stop coddling me. Then, a woman I had never seen before stormed into the waiting room. She spotted me and lunged. My brother had to tackle her to keep her from clawing my eyes out. It was Julian's wife. I didn't know he was married. He never wore a ring. He never mentioned a wife. I felt the floor drop out from under me. I had destroyed 2 families. Leading up to the trial, my life became a living hell. My boys, who were teenagers, refused to stay in the house with me. They moved in with David's parents. My twin girls stopped speaking to me. They would walk into a room, see me, and turn around. I tried to visit David at the county jail, denied every single time. My brother, who works in corrections, made sure David was moved to a facility where he had connections just to keep him safe. When I asked my brother to pass a note to David, he looked me in the eye and said, "Go to hell." The trial was 3 months later. That was the first time I saw David. He looked hollow. He had lost weight. He looked at me across the courtroom, and for the first time in 20 years, there was no love, just hate. Pure, distilled hate. I had to run to the restroom to vomit. I had to testify. I had to recount every sordid detail of the affair for the jury. When I said it had been going on for 6 months, I saw David put his head in his hands. My father stood up and walked out of the courtroom. Then came the medical evidence. Julian couldn't testify verbally because his jaw was wired shut and he had brain swelling. They showed photos. David had shattered his orbital socket, broken his cheekbones in 3 places, and destroyed his mandible. There were bone fragments too small to surgically repair. David took the stand. He was asked why he didn't stop. He said quietly, "I walked in to surprise her with a trip to Paris. I had the tickets in my pocket. When he told me to step aside, something in me just broke. I didn't see a person anymore. I just saw the thing that killed my life." Make sure you're subscribed because the update I'm about to drop regarding the sentence is going to make you scream. The jury wasn't sympathetic to the crime of passion defense as much as we hoped because of the severity of the beating. It was aggravated battery. The judge sentenced David to 7 years in a state penitentiary. When the gavel banged, my son stood up and screamed. My daughters wailed, a sound I will never, ever forget. David's mother collapsed in the aisle, and everyone turned and looked at me. That was the beginning of the darkness. The first 3 years were torture. Julian's wife sued me for alienation of affection. Yes, that's a real thing in our state. David filed for divorce from prison. I didn't contest it. I didn't deserve to. My eldest son moved out and went no contact. My other son refused to leave his room when he was home. My former sisters-in-law cornered me in the grocery store and screamed at me in front of the produce section, calling me every name in the book. David's mother spat in my face when I tried to apologize. Literally spat on me. I lost my job. Word got around. An accounting firm doesn't want a homewrecker handling their high-profile clients. I had to take a job in retail folding clothes for minimum wage. I almost lost the house, but David refused to let them sell it because he wanted the kids to have their home. Even from prison, he was protecting them. I wrote him letters every week. Every single one was returned, unopened, marked, return to sender. My mental health deteriorated. I thought about ending it. I really did. I had a plan, but I was too cowardly to go through with it. I started seeing a therapist who was tough on me. She told me, "You didn't see David as a husband. You saw him as a utility. You got comfortable and you treated him like furniture." She was right. About a year into his sentence, my brother showed up at my door. He looked gray. He told me, "David's in the infirmary. He got stabbed." I fell to my knees. Apparently, an inmate had tried to assault David in the showers. David fought back. He took a shiv to the stomach, but he broke the other guy's spine. My brother screamed at me, "You did this. He is in there fighting for his life because you needed to feel special." David survived. He was moved to protective custody. But the guilt, it's a heavy coat I never take off. Years passed. My boys went to the same college David attended. They only talk to their father. They visit him. They never invite me. My daughters, now 18, tolerate me, but it's transactional. They live here, but they don't love here. And that brings us to this year. David was released in late April for good behavior. He served 5 years. I didn't know he was out. My children didn't tell me. I found out in August. The twins were turning 18. I was planning a party, trying to be the good mom. I asked them about the cake, and one of them looked at me and said, "Mom, can we do the party on a different day? Dad is throwing us a party on our actual birthday, and, well, we don't want you near him." The air left the room. "Dad? He's out?" "He's been out for months," she said, avoiding my eyes. "He's staying with Uncle Mike." My brother was housing him and hadn't told me. I panicked. I needed to see him. I needed to explain. I needed him to know I had changed, that I had waited, that I was sorry. I grabbed the stack of hundreds of returned letters, 5 years worth of unread apologies, and I drove to my brother's house. I saw him through the crack in the front door. He looked older, harder. He had a scar on his neck I didn't recognize. He was laughing with my brother, a sound I hadn't heard in half a decade. I yelled his name. "David!" My brother came out instantly, his face furious. Get out of here, Elena. You are not welcome here. I just want to give him these. I shoved the letters at my brother. Please, just give them to him. I turned and walked back to my car, sobbing. I was halfway down the driveway when I heard the front door open again. Elena, it was his voice, deeper, rougher. I turned around, hope blooming in my chest like a painful flower. David was walking down the driveway toward me. He looked incredible, despite the scars. He was holding the stack of letters. I ran toward him. I wanted to throw my arms around him. He held up a hand to stop me. He stopped 3 feet away. His eyes were like flint. He extended the letters to me. You forgot this trash, he said. His voice was devoid of any emotion. No anger, no sadness, just nothing. I froze. David, please, I love you. I'm so sorry. I've waited for you. He laughed, a dry, humorless sound. You didn't wait for me, Elena. You were just left behind. There's a difference. He shoved the letters into my chest. Don't come back here. My kids know where to find me. You're a ghost to me. He turned his back and walked away. I stood there in the driveway, clutching 5 years of my soul in my hands, watching the only man I ever truly loved walk back into a house where my children and my family were waiting for him. He shut the door. That was 3 days ago. I realized then that my children were just tolerating me until they could leave. They are happy because he is back. They have their father. They have their fun uncle. They have their grandparents. I am the villain in everyone's story. And the worst part is, I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I want my family back, but I burned the bridge while I was standing on it. So now I'm asking you, is there any coming back from this? Or is this just my life now, watching my family be happy through a window I can never open again? Music. Now let's see what the community has to say about this absolute train wreck. Opinion number 1 says, wow, just wow. This was an extremely difficult read. As a betrayed spouse myself, I absolutely sympathize with your ex-husband. By your own account, you were emotionally abusive and dismissive to a man who you admitted treated you like gold. You mentioned how he tried to provide and do things for you only to be rewarded with your infidelity. You need support, sure, but steer clear of anyone condoning your behavior. They aren't your friends. Your ex-husband lost 5 years of his life because your AP was arrogant and you were selfish. Leave him alone. The damage you inflicted will last a lifetime. Go to therapy and let him heal without your shadow hanging over him. Opinion number 2 says, I would say stop trying. This is the stuff nightmares are made of. Sincerely, offer this advice to yourself. Live your life and stop trying to contact the people who have discarded you. It looks like harassment. Sometimes you have to acknowledge that some things are too far gone. You broke it. You can't fix it. Just let them be happy. Opinion number 3 says, this was brutal. Please don't take this the wrong way, but the only reason your kids didn't go full no contact is because the twins were underage. Your ex lost years of his life and was stabbed in prison because of you. Your apologies are worthless to him. He doesn't need to forgive you for you to feel better. Respect his choice. Let him go. Focus on improving the shred of a relationship you have left with your kids, but don't delude yourself into thinking you'll ever be a family again. That ship didn't just sail, you torpedoed it. This story is really unfortunate, and honestly, it makes my blood boil. But how about you guys? Do you think she deserves a second chance, or did she get exactly what she ordered? Leave a spicy comment down below. I read all of them. Make sure you subscribe and leave a like. It helps the channel a ton and motivates me to find more of this insanity for you. Thanks for listening, and take care.